Hi there, this is Dilys Gaihan and welcome to the Inspired Selling Podcast, the place where business owners and salespeople discover how to find, attract, convert and treasure, more of their ideal clients without any of those nasty, sleazy, pushy sales tactics. And I've got another fantastic guest for you today, Nikki, and she's going to talk to us about social media and how to be effective on social media, particularly Twitter. So let me just tell you a little bit about Nikki. And she helps CEOs and business owners and executives of small to medium-sized companies to increase their online visibility, find leads, and increase sales through social media marketing and social selling. And what I love about Nikki is that she believes in walking her own talk, and she uses social media actively, and she blogs, and in fact she's a prolific blogger. In fact, she is also in one of the top 10 UK marketing and advertising influencers in social media. And that is a real accolade to have. You know, you have to be at the top of your game to be recognized in that space. She is also the author of How to Twitter for Business Success and Converting Conversations to Customers, the Essential Guide to Social Media Sales Success. So welcome, Nikki. I am thrilled to have you here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's always lovely to chat to you.
Oh, and you too. We've been friends for a long time, actually, haven't we?
Well, I don't think we've never actually physically met, have we?
Well, I thought we had met at the Sarah Martin's event. I think that was where we met very first time. But I feel like through social media, and this shows the power of social media, that I know you so well. It feels like you're a really good friend.
Well, we've been friends for a while, so I've been following exactly what you've been doing.
Yeah,
I love what you're doing and the way you're helping so many people.
And likewise, I feel the same about you. So after we've kind of stroked our own egos here, share with us, Nikki, your background. How did you get to where you are now, the expert in social media, from where you were? Just kind of fill in that gap for us.
Okay. Well, obviously, I didn't, as a child, think I want to be a social media expert.
No.
Because I'm kind of old now. Social media didn't exist when I was growing up and when I was at university. In fact, the internet didn't. I know it was starting, but didn't really exist as they were when I was at university. I did journalism and I did marketing for Lever Brothers and Speller's Pet Foods, which is now part of Nestle. So they were bought out by Nestle. And then I sort of started doing all sorts of bits and pieces, direct selling, and I was doing coaching, and I was a master NLP practitioner, and it was in case I needed to market my business. And everybody kept on saying, you need to be on Twitter. And I was like, what is this weird Twitter thing?
Yeah.
I signed up because so many people had said it. And within 2 days, I'd given up. It just freaked me out. It was full of disjointed conversations. I didn't understand how on earth you could make it work for business. There's all this jargon, all these weird looking links. And I ran away. That was in 2009, August 2009, I set up my account. It was really December when it was quiet for my business that I thought, okay, I've just got to tackle this, get on with it. And I did a Murray Smith course. She's now known as the Facebook person, but at that stage she did a Facebook and Twitter course.
Right.
This is way back. 2009 is so so long in terms of social media time. And then things just magically started happening. So people started contacting me. I set up a Toastmasters speaking club very, very quickly using Twitter. And everybody kept on saying, well, how are you doing it? And I looked around trying to find a local person who could teach people how to use Twitter. And I realized that there wasn't anybody at this stage. There were some online stuff, but it was all fairly new. And most people were talking about what you'd have for lunch, or so nobody quite knew whether you could actually use it for business or not. And then I was sitting in a networking meeting. So I thought, okay, I've got no clients in August. And I thought, okay, I'm sure 2 weeks a date in 2 weeks time. And I thought, and I was pretty sure I could get a venue. And by the time it came around to me to introduce myself, I was running a Twitter workshop.
Fantastic.
And I've never sold places so quickly. And from there, people said, oh, and I, wanted me to do other Twitter call workshops. And then people said, oh, can you do a Facebook one? Can you do a LinkedIn one? So it took me a while to adjust from me thinking that I was doing a coach and doing social media on the side to actually going, well, actually all my business is as people want me to do social media stuff for them. And I think there's a link, because it's understanding people. You need to understand people and understand language and understand how it works. And that's why it's worked. But yeah, it's come from there. So.
I love that, Nikki, because it's not just about you sharing your expertise on Twitter, but the message there is step into your field and just do it anyway. And I use this JFDI. I use the polite version, of course. Just flipping do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so true. You just need to do it. If there's a gap in the market, and there was blatantly one, it took me a long time. And I probably went screaming and kicking, because it's not what I intended to do.
Yeah.
But it's joined a lot of dots. Like all the disjointed things have come together with social media for me.
Fantastic. So if we just look at Twitter in particular, can you give us a synopsis of what Twitter is about?
Okay. I think Twitter, I mean, everybody knows it's short form, and it used to be 140 characters and it's 280 characters that you can do. But you can actually do more, because you can add videos and you can add pictures and GIFs, and it's great. But I think that the strength of Twitter is it's great for conversations and it's great for driving traffic. So if you want it to get results, the conversations are, if you do social selling, so it's building relationships with people. So remembering the people there. Okay, yes, you get bots and you get accounts that are automated and they're not going to respond to you, but there are lots of real people there, and people do business with people, and it's actually making those human connections. And Twitter is really about having a conversation.
So are the principles the same then, in terms of finding the people who you want to do business with, so your ideal clients? I
think you need to start from knowing what you're about. And you need to know who your customers are, and they can't be anybody from like a 6-month-old to a 92-year-old, as I've heard people say. It's been very clear about who is your ideal customer, and knowing how they tick and where they're likely to be. And the clearer you are, the easier it is to find people on Twitter. So there's a lot of transparency. A lot of CEOs will actually speak to you directly on Twitter, whereas they might not accept your LinkedIn connection. And they certainly won't accept your friend request as well on Facebook. So so you can have conversations. There's no gatekeepers on Twitter. So there's nobody going, oh, I'll pass this on to my secretary. So you can have conversations. And I know people who've contacted people directly through direct message that has led them to as a consulting for very large companies, just because they took a direct approach. It's obviously, you don't approach Richard Branson and say, buy from me. That's not going to work. But you can form relationships very, very quickly on Twitter.
So if I follow someone, but they don't follow me back, that doesn't matter. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, basically, if you follow the people that you want to, that are interesting to you, there's more chance that they'll follow you back, because people look at who they've followed. But not everybody's proactive, and some people don't follow people back. you can also put people on lists, and so sometimes people will put you on a list and they may not follow you because they want to keep their stream simpler. But you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do. So it's up to you to be proactive about finding the right people, and then starting those conversations. You can't expect people, and you can have a conversation with somebody even if they don't follow you back, because like most people will respond if you talk to them directly.
So we were all already following each other, but let's say that you weren't following me. I could then put you onto one of my lists.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
And then I would go into that list to remind myself of who's on it. And then look for them and see what they're saying.
Yeah, lists are incredibly powerful on Twitter. So you can put people onto a list and you can make them private. So if you're looking at prospects, put your customers, if you don't want other people to see who your customers are, depending on your type of business. Or if they're people that you're interested in following to see what they're doing, but you don't necessarily want them to know that you're following them, that you can do them privately. But public lists are very powerful because it strokes people's ego, especially if you put something it's on a flattering list. With lists, it's probably using something like TweetDeck or Hootsuite, which makes the power of lists, because you can put each list in a separate column.
Right.
You can actually scan conversation to see if there's anything interesting. So you could create a list of, say, news sources for your industry, so that you always find the best news stories, so that you can share with your audience, like the breaking news stories.
Right.
Be top of your game for that.
You might
put lists of your customers that you've got already, or people who are local, so that you can find out local stuff, or industry experts that or people you respect in lists, as well as people that you want to get onto their radar, because without being too creepy.
yes, of course. So so let's say I've got you on my list, and then I look at what you're tweeting. I could either comment on it or share it.
Yeah. So by sharing content, people notice who they share, but it's always better if you can share with what they call a quote retweet. So you're adding your comment to the tweet, because then you add value when you add, even like worth reading, or so like agree with it or respond to it, or you can reply to people. Most of us are ego based. So it's like, so if you flatter somebody, obviously sincerely, not like for the sake of brown nosing, but if you can say something nice to people like it. It's like you remember how people make you feel, and especially if you spent ages writing a blog article or an article, it's you're putting a lot of yourself on the plate, so it's good for you if people appreciate it. So you always notice the people who comment or talk about it. So it's a very easy way to get in touch with people, or sometimes you might want to disagree with somebody, but in a pleasant way.
Of course.
Quite often having a little bit of controversy might actually work, or disagreeing with somebody might actually be a better way in, but not for the sake of just being obnoxious, which
So the same principles apply in terms of know, like, and trust, and so you're building that rapport, and then you're sending a private message. Is that what you're saying on Twitter?
So it depends on how people respond. I would obviously look at what they're doing, spend a little bit of time, I suppose, warming people up, so you start having conversations with them. If you've had a conversation that's been an interesting conversation, so not just, oh, that's nice, or just a retweet, people will then, if you send them a direct message with something personal, not like, please follow me, or like my Facebook page, which there's so many automated DMs. But not everybody reads a DM, so sometimes it's useful to send them a message, like a tweet saying, I've just sent you a DM. DM, direct message, or messages on Twitter. They used to call direct messages. So everybody used to call them DMs. There's a lot of history with Twitter in terms of things that we do.
Yeah.
But the private message, most people respond, and there's a lot of business being done behind the scenes that nobody gets to see because you don't necessarily want to know. A lot of the like, let's have a phone call come through direct message on Twitter.
And this has worked for you, Nikki, hasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
I mentioned in the introduction that you walk your talk, and this is exactly how you've built your business.
Yeah, I've formed so many great relationships with people on Twitter. A lot of them started on Twitter, and then like you end up being Facebook friends and Instagram, you know, following each other on Instagram, LinkedIn connection. So after a while, you can't remember exactly how you connected, but a lot of them have started on Twitter as a basis of business relationships, business friendships, because not always people that you're going to do business with directly that you're going to connect with. It's often people that can introduce you to other people. You're more likely to introduce somebody that you like, and you get a flavour for what people are like on Twitter.
Yeah. And I have to be very honest and transparent. I am on Twitter. I have 8 posts a day on Twitter, posted through Hootsuite, but it's not, for me, my preferred platform.
Yeah.
However, talking to you, it's been like a revelation, really, because Twitter, LinkedIn is my most preferred platform. Although I'm very active in Facebook because I'm running a Facebook group called Inspired Selling.
Yes.
And but listening to what you're saying, I think I've missed a trick on Twitter.
Yeah, it's basically automation's great if it allows you the time to actually spend a bit of time building relationships. LinkedIn is brilliant for finding people. So quite often it's connecting. I often with LinkedIn, I'll connect with people on Twitter first, follow them a bit, have a conversation, and then send them a LinkedIn request.
Right.
And I've never had anybody turn me down. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's a nice little strategy, actually.
Yeah. So it's being tactical. It's like knowing where people like to perform. But the thing is that all you're doing is producing linked content with links. People won't interact with you. So it's just spending a bit of time getting to know a few people or targeting a few people. Just use it strategically. I mean, for social selling, it's about when you've got a high enough value that the time that it makes sense to spend a bit of time with people. So if getting a new contract or new business means a substantial amount of money, then it's worth investing time building business relationships with those people, so that when you have a sales conversation, it doesn't feel salesy and tricky. It just feels part of the conversation. It may or may not work, but if you get on with people, then they're more likely to refer you to somebody else, or put you in touch with somebody else if there's that genuine human relationship between people.
Yeah, indeed. So let's just talk for a minute then about how you ensure that you come up when people are searching. So, for example, if someone searches expert in social media, how have you ensured that your name comes up?
Okay, on that, with this, interestingly enough, with search, I mean, LinkedIn is a great source for finding me on LinkedIn. But with Twitter, your bio is searchable. In fact, your tweets are searchable as well on Google.
All right.
Yeah. So it's worth, and I believe it's worth changing every now and then, shifting something in your bio, but making sure your keywords that you want to be found for on Twitter. You never know how people can find you. So I think it's important to put your best face forward everywhere you can. Because some people don't interact on Twitter, but they might be very active on another platform. And it's not for you to go to, I only deal with people on Twitter. If people want to talk to you using a different platform, you talk to them on the other platform. But there are a lot of people having conversations on Twitter. And there's new rules to Twitter which will take out a lot of the automation, which will hopefully quieten the noise of people who've just set everything up to be on autopilot, so more conversations can happen without being noisy. Yeah.
And I think that's what I've done, really, if I'm honest. And this goes to some very basics. You know, the garden that you water is the garden that grows the most. And so I do spend more time on LinkedIn and in my Facebook group. And I think it boils down to deciding where you want to be seen and how you're going to develop it. And it certainly worked for you, Nikki, because you are really well known in your space. And I think you spoke at the social media marketing event was it in California?
Yeah, in San Diego, Social Media Marketing World, with social media examiners thing. I mean, so I'm known that there are very few people who seem to specialize in Twitter. So there's a handful of people that are known for being Twitter experts, I suppose.
But that is huge. You know, that isn't just sort of speaking at a big networking meeting. That is the event of social media, really, isn't it? So
I don't know.
I bow down to you, Nikki Creel. That's brilliant. Really brilliant. So taking the fact that, you know, I'm there on Twitter, but not really working it properly, and I do have content going on. Let's just talk about content for a moment. And I know that you do something around, let's create content for 30 days, a workshop, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm setting up a 30 days content in a single day. Yeah.
Fantastic. So just give us the bones of that then, of what, so talk to me and use me as an example. What should I be doing and what sort of content? Because I mean, I've got my podcast, I do videos, I write blogs, you know, I've got audios of my interviews and so on. So I've got lots and lots of content.
Okay.
So what should I be doing?
The first thing that I would be doing with you, or like I'd make sure that you're doing properly, is repurposing your content. Because you've created a lot of content, and quite often people who are producing a lot of content, they forget to actually market it properly.
Right.
So you do something and then you're on to creating the next video. And one of my coaching clients that I was working with, she was spending a day to maybe 2 days creating video, but then putting it out everywhere, but then not sharing it again.
Right.
So I'm going, you're wasting your time if you're spending all this time creating it, but not actually marketing it properly and sharing it, you know, several times so that people can find it. Because people, guess what? Surprise, surprise, people aren't sitting there waiting to find out what the next thing is that you've done. You know, I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of distractions. So you kind of need to let people know a few times, you know, that you're doing there. So I would, like in this workshop, I would get you to take one of the pieces that you've done and look at how you can produce like several tweets, but different tweets. So different focus from the same piece of content, but taking maybe your podcast and creating a blog, an easy blog around it, but you know, through transcription. I'm sure you do some of this.
I do actually. So this interview, I will have it transcribed. The transcription and the audio will go on my blog and then go out to my subscribers. The video will go onto YouTube, the audio will go onto iTunes, and then it goes across my social media channels.
But there will be chunks out of this interview that you might want to highlight. So you might want to create images from it, or you might want to break the video down. Or I'm assuming, I don't know if this is going to be video or
video.
So you might want to break the video down or have little bite-sized pieces, which work really well because for people to digest it, or little quotes, or you know, things out of it. And that provides you with a lot of content. So not just the, you know, sort of like what you're doing, which is great, but taking it and breaking it down into a lot of different content, which looks very, very different from one piece of content.
Yeah. And actually, I do have a contact who will do that for me, and I have had that done in the past because I haven't got time to do it myself. So that's another option for people, isn't it? You don't have to do it yourself.
No, exactly.
There are lots of people who specialize in doing this, repurposing.
Well, and quite often it's like things like looking up, working out which keywords or what for blog ideas that you want to write on. It's knowing how to go about doing it, and within an hour you can get a tremendous source of information to share. Just by focusing at 1 hour, setting the timer, finding interesting content, because the thing is, the more you search in your field, the better the search results become. So you get more and more better results as you search deeper and deeper. It's like, if you're looking for content, look for the people who write the content and follow them on Twitter, and put them onto a list, because they're authors. They will have thoughts on it, and they're potentially thought leaders. They're good connections for you to make. So there's a lot more than just curating content, but it's sharing other people's content. There's a lot of content, like for sales. There's a lot of content out there. You don't need to create it all yourself. It's just being able to sit down and find it and source it in a way. Obviously you want to read everything that you put out, because you don't want somebody else's sales pitch in stuff you're sharing. But if it's good quality content, then by sharing it, you get associated with that content without you even having to do it, to write a thing or create a single video. So what would your advice be in terms of the mix of content that you're putting out there? Let's say on a daily basis, what would, or maybe you look at it weekly, I'm not sure, but what would your advice be? Well, I like doing things by fives, because they're easier to say. I think you want to, obviously share other people's information. So sometimes it's sharing to be a thought leader, but also sharing content to build relationships with people. Okay? So you can be really strategic about how you share content. Yes, it's fine to talk about yourself, okay, but probably one in the five about yourself. And then having conversations with people, and building those relationships with people should be our other one. So you should at least every day have a conversation, and it only takes a few minutes a day to find a few people to have a conversation with, or join in a conversation, and your news feed looks very different than something that looks very obviously automated. And you'll start getting more response. The more you talk to people, the more people interact with you, the more fun it is. Twitter should be fun,
Absolutely. The whole of work should be fun, really, shouldn't it? It's the majority of your life. So
the problem is, if you're just broadcasting and not listening or not interacting with people, then it becomes a very meh thing. So whereas if you start actually chatting to people and having conversations, then it's good. But I think it's like just remembering to keep it, like, you're allowed to talk about yourself, but there's ways to talk about sales. Always think about what the benefits you're offering for your customers rather than what you want to sell. So give them a reason. What is their reason for clicking on that link? Because the joy of Twitter is you're taking them somewhere else, where you can to a landing page which has got more content about it. So don't try and sell directly on Twitter, but it's not to say you can't sell on Twitter.
And my mantra for everything in my business is about 100% client focus. So even if it's a free resource, what is the benefit that the potential client is going to get, or your connection on Twitter or whatever it is? What's the benefit they're going to get from taking your free resource?
I think a little tip for people is that if you look at your last few tweets, and if there are lots of I's and we's, you need to change those into you's, those sentences, because then you're customer focused. As soon as you're using the word you're actually talking to somebody. And it's a conversation where you're talking to somebody, what's the benefit to them, rather than what you want to say. Exactly.
So in terms that, so we've looked at content. We've looked at how to position yourself and be found. We've looked at the know, like and trust and connecting with people who you want to be connected with. So being quite focused on what you do rather than just randomly connecting with anyone, because time is precious. We've got to, use our time efficiently and effectively. Have you any other top tips that you would like to share with the audience?
I think the main thing is to remember that there are people there, and to treat people, just because it's electronic or digital, it doesn't mean that you should behave in a different way than you would face to face with someone. Generally, if you're nice to people,
I agree. Yeah.
And I think don't be scared. Lots of people with Twitter, they are so scared of making that step. So what if somebody doesn't reply to you? It's not not the end of the world.
Yeah.
the planet, hasn't imploded or
Yeah.
it just move on, but the thing is, if you don't start that conversation, it's fine following people and watching what they're doing, but you actually need to build a relationship by reaching out to that person. Twitter is probably the easiest way to do that, because, what can they say? They might not reply to your tweet. It's not, you've just used 140 to 280 characters. It's not the end of the world.
Right. Yes, indeed. And it's not about just growing numbers, it's about growing relationships.
Very, very strongly.
Fantastic. Nikki, that's been really insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. So where can people get in touch with you? Show us your lovely book, because I know you've got this really fantastic book, Converting Conversations to Customers. I love that. And the reason I love it so much, it's outcome-based.
Yeah, well, this book is really, I've written this for small businesses, so micro businesses, so to consultants and coaches and small business owners, because the majority of businesses are less than 10 people. Did you know? They are over 90% or something of businesses are. So I've written that. So I've written it assuming that you don't have a ginormous budget, tons and tons of time to spend on things, and it's looking at taking LinkedIn and Twitter and changing it into, sort of building relationships. So being very focused about how you use those two platforms to actually generate a business from both of those. So that's
fantastic.
I'm
going to go straight from here to Amazon and order that, Nikki.
And just get hold of me anywhere. It's Nikki Creel, NICKYKRIEL. So it's .com for my website. But on Twitter, I'm at Nikki Creel, LinkedIn, Nikki Creel, Facebook, Nikki Creel.
Yeah.
You get the pattern.
I get the pattern, yeah. Oh, that's great.
I don't care where people connect with me. Just connect and say hi and say you saw this interview, which is great, because then I know, what the connection is.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks again, Nikki. Really brilliant. Thank you
for inviting me.
You're welcome. Bye for now.